Joining me now, NBC News Justice correspondent Ken Dilanian and former federal prosecutor Paul Butler. So, Ken, give us the top lines from this report, and how is the FBI responding?
You know, Ryan, after the Nassar case that you mentioned, the FBI could not have been more clear. FBI Director Christopher Wray said that that was a horrific situation. He said he would work to make sure it would never happen again. But unfortunately, what this report suggests is that things like what happened in the Nassar case have happened again. Not to the same scale, not at the same level, but this was just an audit, not an investigation. So they sampled 327 cases where child sex abuse allegations had reached the FBI. And in 42 of those cases, they found deficiencies so egregious that they immediately went to the FBI and said, look, you guys need to correct this. And in one particular case, they found that the FBI essentially sat on an allegation of child sex abuse so that a minor was abused for more than a year, and there was an additional victim during that time who was abused. So that is very like what happened in the Nassar situation when the FBI sat on that case and 70 additional women were the victim of Larry Nassar's sex abuse. The FBI is saying in a statement that, they're saying, I got to get it here, ensuring the safety and security of children is not just a priority for the FBI. It's a solemn duty that we are committed to fulfilling with the highest standards. We're committing to maintain the public's trust by implementing the necessary improvements to ensure the important changes that they've made previously are coming to pass. Look, those are great words, but those are the same kind of language the FBI used in the wake of the Nassar case. There are questions being asked now why this continues to happen. One of the issues cited by an FBI official in a call with reporters is budget cuts. And there's an increased caseload of child sex abuse cases. But I'm not sure that the public is going to be satisfied with that kind of explanation when it comes to the safety of children, Ryan.
Yeah. So, Paul, let's talk about what this means for the victims and then those who've been affected by the prosecution of sexual abuse cases.
So, Ryan, who can forget that searing testimony we heard from Simone Biles during the Senate hearings about this creep, Larry Nassar, and how he was allowed for years and years to abuse American athletes, girls who were just trying to make the Olympic team. And as Ken said, why haven't things gotten better? The Inspector General report identifies 3 problems. One is a lack of investigation. Sometimes the FBI gets allegations and it just doesn't follow up. Second, it doesn't report to law enforcement, local law enforcement. The FBI doesn't have jurisdiction over most child sex abuse cases. It's normally handled by state and local authorities. The FBI's jurisdiction, it's when it's on a federal territory or Indian land. But when they get allegations that they aren't responsible for, obviously they're supposed to report them to state and local officials. Too often they don't. The third is simple. The third recommendation, the FBI should just follow its own rules. It's not doing that now. And again, that's a problem.
And has the FBI, Ken, said that they're going to make these changes? I know they've given lip service to that before, but did they agree with the assessment of the IG report? And do they expect to implement reforms as a result?
They did, Ryan, but the FBI, this report made 11 recommendations, and only 2 of them are closed in the IG parlance, which means that they're satisfied. They're working on some of the others. I took note of the fact that in this report, an FBI official in his written response suggested that most of the issues here were paperwork violations, were a failure to document investigative steps in the file. But that's actually refuted in the body of the report, which says that 42% of the cases required additional investigative steps by the FBI. In other words, not just paperwork, but actual things that the FBI had to do to investigate child sex abuse. It suggests that the FBI really fully hasn't come to grips with the extent of the problem here. And, you know, this is not going to go away. There may be congressional hearings about this. The Inspector General may be called to testify. Members of Congress who've been following this issue since the Nassar case are outraged and issuing angry statements today, wondering why the FBI has not done better on this issue, Ryan.
You know, and Paul, I go back to what Ken said earlier about this idea of resources and a lack of resources. If you're pointing to a lack of resources, then aren't you also pointing to your priorities? What I read between the lines here is that the FBI just has not made sexual abuse claims a priority in the work that they've done.
That's certainly what the report suggests. So, yes, the FBI has extraordinary responsibilities with regard to national security, but this is also extremely consequential. The most important recommendation from the report is about compliance, that the the FBI needs to develop and implement a method to ensure that it's following its own rules, which require mandatory reporting of these kinds of incidences. One agent told the Inspector General, these cases just fall through the cracks, even though the number of allegations the FBI is hearing recently is going up. The number of agents assigned to these cases, that's going down. So that does suggest kind of an institutional issue that goes beyond just paperwork.
Yeah, and Ken, just quickly to close with you, it seems kind of shocking, given everything, all the attention that's been paid to this particular issue after the Nassar case, that something like this could fall through the cracks.
It's remarkable. I don't want to understate the fact that the FBI has made improvements since the Nassar case, Ryan. They've changed their policies and procedures, but what this report says is they haven't gone far enough. They haven't fully fixed the problem.
Okay. Ken Delaney and Paul Butler, thank you so much. We appreciate that.